Welcome back, writers, authors, and even poets. I wanted to take a little bit of time to give you a brief overview of the Book Buddies project, and then I'm going to model for you in this video today how you can lay out your rough draft booklet. So let's get started. We're going to go through 7 steps in the Book Buddies project. We've already done steps 1, 2, and 3. And this video is going to primarily focus on your rough draft booklet. After you complete your rough draft booklet, you'll make revisions to your rough draft booklet and then get to work on your hardcover final draft. Once all of the class has finished the hardcover book, then we will have a writer's celebration where you'll give your 3rd grade book buddy the book you wrote for them. I don't plan on having this writer's celebration until after the holiday break. I want to give you as much time as you need to complete your rough draft booklet, make those revisions, and then do your very best and most creative and artistic work in your hardcover book. So in step 1, you interviewed your 3rd grade book buddy to learn about their lives and what they are interested in. You're going to use this information to personalize the book you're writing for them. All interviews were completed the week of November 15th. If you were absent, a classmate completed the interview for you, and it's waiting for you in your file folder in your homeroom's crate in my classroom. In step 2, you chose which type of fiction book you would write for your book buddy story. This step was assigned on November 30th. And if you haven't completed this step yet, please go back to the Writing Google Classroom to complete this step before moving on. In step 3, you completed your plot diagram. This step was assigned on December 1st. So if you haven't completed your plot diagram yet, please go back to the Writing Google Classroom to complete this step. In step 4, you're going to be completing your rough draft booklet. This step will be completed in class only the week of December 6th. And you can visit the Writing Google Classroom for instructions. I want to stress to you, writers, that if you are absent or not at school, you will be given time to complete this step when you return. The first 3 steps, step 1, step 2, and step 3, can all be completed on Google Classroom, but starting with step 4, all of this work is going to be done in class. And again, we're not going to be having our writer celebration until after the holiday break, so you'll have plenty of time to complete this in class when you return to school. So, as I stated before, this video is going to primarily focus on the rough draft booklet instructions. First off, don't begin your rough draft booklet until you have completed your plot diagram and really mapped out the entire plot of your story. Once you've completed your plot diagram, you should submit that via Google Classroom, and I will look that over and approve it for you. You can also show your plot diagram to Mrs. Brown or to Mrs. Chafin, and they can look it over for you and approve it for you as well. If you'd like to print out your plot diagram, if I haven't already done so for you, and put it into your folder in the crate, in your homeroom's crate in the classroom, then you can ask Mrs. Brown or Mrs. Chafin if you can head on down to Mrs. Barnes's lab and print it, because unfortunately you can't print from the Chromebooks. So after you've had your plot diagram reviewed and approved by a teacher, you're going to carefully plan the layout of your rough draft booklet so that all 27 pages are filled with text and or illustrations. The layout of your rough draft booklet is the same as the hardcover book you'll be using for your final copy. So it's important that you plan that layout carefully. And I'll be showing that to you or modeling that for you, how I did that in just a moment. Also, you're only using pencil to complete your rough draft booklet. You're going to be doing a lot of erasing. I have these erasers in the classroom so you don't use up the erasers on your pencils. So make sure you use pencil only to complete your rough draft booklet. Although you can plan the layout of your illustrations, you should not be drawing any pictures within your rough draft booklet. Save all of your artistic skills for the final cover, the final copy of your book buddy story. Spelling and grammar count for your rough draft. Use the resources available to help you. Ask a teacher how to spell something. Look it up on your Chromebook. Really use the resources available to help you and to make sure that all of your spelling and grammar is correct in your rough draft booklet. Also, I want you to reflect upon all of the lessons from Unit 1 that you learned about and refer back to your Unit 1 Writer's Notebook to review all of the slides that we added on writerly moves you could try or transitions, words and phrases, adding dialogue and really putting said to bed and trying out some new dialogue tags. Add some figurative language to your book buddy story and develop both the internal and the external story, adding powerful emotions and really elaborating on those critical scenes. Also, remember to have an enticing lead or beginning to your story and really end it with a powerful ending. And there's so much more in your writer's notebook that you can look back to review to get ideas on how to make your book buddy story the best it can be. And after you think you're done with your rough draft booklet, go ahead and show it to Mrs. Brown or to Mrs. Chafin or even to Mr. Wiltrakis if you work with him. And they'll go through your rough draft booklet and make corrections for you that you can then go back and revise. And then once the teacher approves your rough draft booklet, they'll go ahead and give you a hardcover book and you'll be able to begin the final draft of your book buddy story. That won't be until the week of December 13th, but that's something that you can look forward to. So I'd like to model for you exactly how I laid out my rough draft booklet so that all 27 pages were filled. So I started off, writers, with my plot diagram. And I thought to myself, okay, if there's 27 pages that I need to fill, I need to plan out exactly how many pages I'm going to use for each part of my story. So what I did was I started off and I knew that around the middle of the book, maybe not exactly, but around the middle of the book was going to be my climax. So I knew that I had about 10 to 13 or 14 pages that I had to fill before the climax. So what I did was I thought, okay, how many pages do I think I'm going to use for the exposition? And this includes illustrations. And I thought, okay, about 2 pages. And maybe about 2 pages for the rising action for event 1. And then 3 pages for event 2 in the rising action, and then so on and so forth. 1 page for my climax, 3 or 4 pages for each of my falling action, and then 4 pages for my resolution. So once I had a good idea about how many pages I was going to use for each event in my plot diagram, I went ahead and started laying out my rough draft booklet that I'm going to show to you. So, on the cover, I don't have a title yet. Because you know me, I like to choose my title at the end. And hopefully you'll use that strategy I taught you for your personal narrative on choosing a really catchy title. But I do have down at the bottom, written and illustrated by Michelle Dubois. That's me. So I actually wrote in my book as a reminder to leave the front cover blank because this will be the inside of the hardcover and I don't want to do any writing there. And then this page right here, I left for the dedication. This book is dedicated to Susie Brown, my imaginary third grader that I interviewed. I hope you enjoy reading this book as much as I enjoyed writing it for you. From your sixth grade buddy, Michelle Dubois. You can go ahead and copy my dedication or write one of your own. So I decided that part of my 2 pages for my exposition was going to include a map. So what I did here was I just kind of left this page for an illustration and left a note to myself about what I was going to draw there. And then I just wrote exposition here, really quick to let myself know that I was going to put the exposition there. And then rising action. This page is going to be for my rising action. Eventually I'll erase where it says rising action event 1 and I'll enter what I'm going to write there. Not sure what I'm going to draw here for that yet, but I know I want to put an illustration on this page. And then in rising action event 1, I know that Susie and Blake are riding their bikes, and I thought it would be fun for my illustration to kind of wrap around the page. So I just left a spot there for the illustration. I know that I'm going to write about the event 1 in my rising action here. I left a whole page open for text right here for me to write the rising action event number 2. And then I'm actually going to leave this whole page open, and I wanted to kind of mix up my illustrations. So I'm going to draw Susie, Blake, and Mom visiting different campsites here. So I'm kind of, as I'm thinking about it and laying this out, thinking about what I want to illustrate. But like I said, not doing any illustrations. Then I left this whole page open for the rising action for event 2. And then starts this page with event 3 in my rising action. I thought I'd draw, and that's about the kitten being found and then making a kitten found poster. So I thought I'd draw a picture here of the kitten found poster. And then I just went on to continue to really lift this up a little bit here so we can see it better. To really map out exactly what was going to go on each page. All the way to the end. And you can see I varied the type of illustrations I was going to do. And then I left my back cover blank. So I'm going to go ahead and pause this video, and I'm going to go back through my booklet, and I'm going to erase all of these. I'm going to go ahead and leave where my illustrations are, but I'm going to erase these. And as I go through and erase, I know, okay, this page is for my exposition. I'm going to erase, use my eraser to erase exposition, and then I'm going to write my exposition there. And same thing here, I'm going to erase rising action event 1 and event 2, and I'm going to write my text there. I'm going to get going. So I'm going to go ahead and pull out my plot diagram so I know exactly what I'm going to be writing, and I'm going to get to work. I'll be right back. Hello, writers. So I know I said I'd be right back, but it took me much longer than I thought to complete my rough draft booklet. So I want to share that with you now. So my cover is still blank, written and illustrated by Mrs. Dubois. However, I've had the opportunity to take some time and write some text. Still the same dedication, but here it is. As you can see, I still don't have any illustrations because remember, we're not doing illustrations in our rough draft booklet, but now I have some text. Let's read my exposition. Susie and Blake were best friends. They were in the same third grade class at Kiker Elementary. They lived in the same neighborhood. Susie and Blake even got the same bike for their birthday last June. Yes, they both have June birthdays. They both have a June birthday. It was no surprise when Susie asked Blake, "Do you want to go camping with me next week?" "Of course," Blake said yes. So, oops, I dropped my. So, as you can see, I've added much more there than I included on my plot diagram because my plot diagram was just an outline and I definitely elaborated on my exposition. I flip to the next page. Remember, I allowed 2 pages for my exposition. So now I'm moving into my rising action. When Susie, Blake, and Susie's mom and dad arrived at Shady Park Campground, they set up the camper. Once the camper was up, Susie and Blake made their beds and helped move the food and supplies into the camper. "Thank you for all of your help," Susie's dad said gratefully. Susie's mom told Blake and Susie they could go and explore the campground. "Let's go!" they both yelled in unison. Hopping on their matching bikes, Susie and Blake set off on the bike path that winds through the campground. Susie had stayed at the campground in the past, so she knew her way around. Again, as I moved into my rising action, event 2, then see that I really added. I needed 3 pages for that. One of them I used for an illustration, which is fine. And I really elaborated on this scene, adding dialogue and really adding more details. "Did you hear that?" Susie asked Blake. "No," replied Blake. Susie and Blake skidded to a stop. "Meow, meow." Some figurative language, onomatopoeias. "I heard it. I think it's a cat," Blake whispered. Blake and Susie got off their bikes to investigate further. There, cowering in the bushes, was a tiny, shivering kitten. Susie took off her jacket and carefully wrapped the kitten up. "I wonder if my mom will let me keep her," Susie said to Blake. "Let's head back and ask her," Blake responded. "You carry the kitten, and I'll walk the bikes." Now, originally on this page, I don't know if you remember, I was going to have 3 different pictures, but I found myself having more. I wanted to write more, so I erased 2 of those boxes and went ahead and kept writing. Arriving back to the campsite, Susie unwrapped her jacket to show her mom and dad what they had discovered. "Can we keep it? Please?" Susie begged. "Susie, that kitten might belong to someone staying at the campground," her mom replied. "Let's take a walk and check with the other campers." Reluctantly, Susie and Blake followed. Oh, I have an error there. That's supposed to be followed. Again, I took what I had here from my rising action event number 2 and really stretched it out and elaborated. I added some figure of language, more dialogue, a lot of that internal and external story about the feelings, even really zooming in on the shivering and scrawny kitten. So writers, I'm not going to continue going through this. I think you get the hint. I'm going to go back and I just want to review this one more time that you can watch and rewatch this video as many times as you need. Okay? But remember, you have to complete your plot diagram and have it approved by a teacher before you begin your rough draft booklet. And carefully plan the layout of your rough draft to make sure that all 27, not 28, because we used one for a dedication page, are filled with text or illustrations. And if you're worried about the illustrations, don't be. They can be really, really simple. And you can also have a peer help you with your illustrations as long as they are done and working on their illustrations as well. And the layout of your rough draft booklet is the same as the hardcover book. Use pencil only. And although you can plan the layout of your illustrations, don't be drawing anything yet. And pay attention to your spelling and grammar and really go back to your Unit 1 Writer's Notebook to review all of those slides that we added because they'll all be useful in writing your book buddy project or writing your book buddy story. So writers, it's time to get to work. Finish up your plot diagram if you haven't done so already and get to work on your rough draft booklet. I'm so excited for you to begin on this. We're one step closer to that hardcover book. Your third grade book buddies are going to love them. Okay, off you go.